Well, some wild and crazy weather this past weekend. It was perfect for some wild and crazy football games. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Football Fever here on LASD TV. Your home for high school football here on the South Plains. I'm Travis Cram, and the man to my left is none other than the titan of the tundra, George Watson of the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal.
I got to blame myself for that one.
I know, you told it to me before the show, so that one's yours. Well, Titan, it was some weird games this weekend. It was some interesting ones. Let's start with that Thursday night game, Tascosa and Lubbock High. It ends up 28-13 Tascosa, but this honestly could have been a close game. It was an 8-point game at one point, and Lubbock High just kind of let that one slip away again.
It was kind of a weird weekend, just a weekend of weird results and weird ways in how they came about. And Lubbock High, that was kind of a weird game. They had Angel Armanderos back, and we were told before the game during the week that Nathan Slaughter wouldn't play. Well, I think he found a medicine man or something, because he was in uniform, he suited up, he went through warm-ups, and he played pretty well out there. And unfortunately, Lubbock High just didn't have enough to keep up with Tascosa. Tascosa's got that balanced offense, especially with quarterback Dalton Brooks. He can run the ball well, he can pass the ball well, and they're doing a lot of good things offensively. And then they had enough defense, to where Lubbock High, is really still one-dimensional with the passing game. They don't have a very good running game right now, so they were able to kind of, sit on the passing game and not let Armanderos get comfortable back there, and were able to come out with the win.
Yeah, you mentioned Dalton Brooks, their quarterback. He accounted for every single one of those scores for them in that game. 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing. So Tascosa trying to keep things going. They're going to have Coronado coming up this weekend, so we'll see what goes on with that one. Next game going on involved the Mustangs taking on Midland out at Lowry Field on Friday night. I saw this one. It was 17-3 at halftime. Looked like, okay, if Coronado can just get one thing going, they've got it, but Midland kind of ended that with that opening kickoff at halftime.
Yeah, unfortunately, Coronado was just never able to get itself into the game. You mentioned it was a 14-point game at halftime, and credit Coronado. I mean, they came back, they finished with 23 points, so they had a better second half, but they were just in too big of a hole in the first half to get going, which really surprised me, because Coronado's been playing better defensively. However, I've said it before, I think Midland, when they get their defense going, they have the offense. I think they are one of the most complete teams in that district right now. And so they were able to kind of keep, Coronado at bay. The thing I like about Coronado is they're starting to get a running game going, and they're starting to show a little bit of balance. And if they can put that together with some good defensive efforts here down the stretch, I think they'll stay in the playoff chase. Just unfortunately, they ran up against maybe, I think one of the 1 or 2 best teams in the district in Midland right now.
Yeah, you mentioned head coach Craig Ginzer. He gets his 100th career win in that game. Funny thing I found out during the game from the guy from the MRT was that's his first win, his 50th win at Midland, and his 100th career win have all come against Coronado. So,
well, I guess he just loves playing Coronado. if you need to win for Craig Ginzer, you play Coronado, I guess.
All right, well, staying with District 2-5A now, Amarillo taking on Monterey, and Amarillo has been one of those teams. They've obviously surprised us this season. They keep rolling. They held Monterey to basically 6 points in that game. Just looks like the Plainsmen can never really get anything going, even though they got a lot out of Sam Teague that night.
Yeah, see, Amarillo's been winning with 2 aspects. They've been winning with a great running game, and they've been winning with outstanding defense, and those were both on display against Monterey. Monterey's only score came on a fumble recovery in the end zone by Matt Bills. Otherwise, Monterey only had 122 yards offense. They only had 1 yard passing. So Amarillo was able to sit on that passing game and hold that down and limit Monterey's running game enough, and then turn around and I've mentioned him before. Heath Harrington is an outstanding running back for Amarillo. He had over 150 yards, a couple touchdowns, and they were able to just kind of play ball control offense. It was a low-scoring game, which I kind of thought it would be, and unfortunately, Monterey's offense is just has struggled the last couple weeks trying to recapture some things that they had against San Angelo Central before they went into the break. So and it's not going to get any easier for Monterey this week. They've got to go up against Odessa, the high-flying Broncos. They're going to put up some points. So it's going to be a really challenging week for Monterey coming up this week against Odessa, and see what they can do.
Yeah, I mentioned some of the other scores around District 2-5A. Permian gets a 38-29 win over Lee. That was a big one. They actually had to hold off Midland Lee toward the end there. Then you mentioned Odessa. Their offense is rolling right now. They win 47-6 over San Angelo Central over the weekend, which I'm back to see who those teams are going to take on this past week. You've mentioned a couple already. Going into District 1-3A now, Perryton and Estacado going on, and this one seemed like a close one at first, but then again, Perryton, one of those teams that just seemed to pull away from Estacado at the end there.
Yeah, well, I've mentioned Perryton before. They've had some pretty big wins in non-district. They went in with a win over Canadian, which won the 1A state championship last week, and they're playing pretty stout defense. They held Canadian down, were able to score some points, and they pretty much did the same thing to Estacada. Estacada's really kind of struggling offensively right now. I think trying to find an identity. Deverick Stubblefield, I think, is still feeling some effects from the sprained shoulder that he suffered before they went into the bye. And that really is kind of limiting what they can do offensively, and it's allowing teams to stack up against their running game. So, Estacada's got to get that going this week. Against Levelland coming up this week, and if they can, they'll be all right. But yeah, it was another tough weekend for the Matadors running the football and just offensively overall. They played well enough defensively, and Perryton scored a touchdown late. That it was a close game. They were in that game the whole way, just weren't able to kind of get things going at the end and kind of come back for the win.
Switching over to District 4-4A now. We hinted at this one at the beginning. You saw it, Big Spring and Friendship. A close game. It was 14-6 there for a while, but then all of a sudden, I mean, it was like Big Spring just ended any chance of Friendship trying to get in the end zone again the rest of the game.
Well, I mean, this is what happens when you turn the ball over. And credit Big Spring on both sides of the football. They did a good job of creating the turnovers, and then did a good job capitalizing. And, Friendship, got some turnovers as well. The problem was they happened deep in their own end zone when they got them, and then they committed them deep in their own end zone when they did. So Big Spring was able to play with the short field, but they did what good teams do. They capitalized on the turnovers and turned a 14-7 game, game that they were behind into a 21-14 lead, and they were able to put it away at the end. Big Spring is a legitimate team, but I think I think Friendship. I know they're disappointed that they didn't put together their best effort, and I know they'll when they last lost a district game against Plainview 4 years ago, they came back and went all the way to the state semifinals. I'm not saying that's going to happen this year, but they know how to come back strong. They know how to come back focused. I think Friendship will be okay going from here on out.
All right, going into District 3-2A now, and Post taking on Idalou. We've found out about Idalou's defense and how good this team is this year. We're kind of curious about how Post would handle that because their offense has sputtered at points, but we saw, I think, in this game especially how that two-back system between Dalby and Wyndham is really going to work for them. And they had to hold their defense had to actually hold off Idalou toward the end there if they got a late touchdown.
Yeah, this really makes District 3-2A an interesting race now because you got Littlefield unbeaten at the top, and then everybody else is kind of jumbled in there. I think this is a game. This is a kind of game that Idalou had kind of been flirting with the last couple of weeks. They'd won late against Shallow Water, and they hadn't really scored any very many points against Denver City the following week. So it was one of those games that you figured if a team could get 2 touchdowns, they might have a chance, with Idalou's struggles on offense as well, they might have a chance to win this game. And credit Post, they did an outstanding job offensively and defensively against Idalou and really got the job done.
Now, a couple other scores to mention before we go. Roosevelt wins in that one 42-7 over Slayton. Big game from Caden Whitley and Robbie Stout. They combined for 235 yards, 5 touchdowns in that game. Then Lubbock Christian wins 41-7 over Carrollton Christian. We're going to find out a little bit more about a big player that had to step up for Lubbock Christian when George comes back and introduces you to our AJ Player of the Week right after this.